After winning the $200 million lottery, my boyfriend Ethan secretly gave the ticket to the bankrupt campus queen, Lily. He tried to console me by saying we still had the college entrance exams ahead of us, and she had nothing left. Overjoyed, Lily recklessly drove off, causing an accident that killed me. In court, Ethan forged a suicide note in my handwriting and testified that I had taken my own life. With both evidence and testimony in her favor, Lily was acquitted of all charges. When I opened my eyes again, I was back at the moment when Ethan was fretting over Lily's bankruptcy. This time I concealed the lottery ticket and slightly suggested to him, "You don't have the money to save her, but you still have the college entrance exams." The next day Ethan, despite having the grades for an Ivy League school, deliberately applied to a lower-tier college and sold his acceptance for $1 million to help Lily. At school, Lily's financial ruin was the talk of the campus, and Ethan was the most distraught of all. His lips were covered in sores from anxiety, yet he lied to me, claiming they were from staying up late to study. "Emma," he said, "didn't you say you might win the lottery? Did you?" His face lit up with anticipation. I shook my head in faint disappointment, and his expression fell instantly. His eyes were full of dismay as he hastily packed his bag, muttering, "I'm heading to the library to study. I'm not going home with you." Once Ethan was out of sight, I pulled out the lottery ticket I had been holding tightly. Had lied. I had won the lottery, a total of $200 million, in my previous life. I couldn't wait to share the news with Ethan, but instead of celebrating, he gave the ticket to Lily, the campus queen. "We still have the college entrance exams," he said. "She has nothing left." I couldn't believe it. He claimed it was his duty as class president to help struggling classmates, but it was all a joke. If he wanted to help someone, why not use his own money instead of stealing mine? After losing the lottery ticket in my previous life, I poured all my hopes into the entrance exams. But the day before the test, Lily, thrilled by her newfound wealth, drove recklessly and killed me. After my death, she was so consumed by guilt that she wept profusely. Yet Ethan, unable to bear her pain, forged a suicide note in my handwriting and testified that I had taken my own life. With this evidence, Lily was acquitted and walked free. In gratitude, Lily confessed her feelings for Ethan. With his help, she secured a college recommendation and was accepted into an Ivy League school alongside him. The two became the envy of everyone. A picture-perfect couple. Meanwhile, I was left as the forgotten victim of their success. The painful memory surged within me, and I gripped the lottery ticket tightly. This time, I was determined not only to hold on to my winnings and rewrite my fate, but also to make those two pay for their betrayal in blood. I quickly cashed in the ticket. After paying $40 million in taxes, I was left with $160 million. Seeing the hefty number in my bank account filled me with a deep sense of security. Even my steps felt lighter as I returned to school. To my surprise, as soon as I stepped onto campus, I saw Lily crying by the lotus pond. A crowd of fawning admirers surrounded her, offering their sympathy, including Ethan, who had claimed to be studying at the library. Among the group, Ethan didn't stand out. While others pushed their way to be near Lily, Ethan was left on the edge, gazing at her with helpless sorrow. When Lily caught sight of him out of the corner of her eye, her expression was filled with disdain. I suddenly remembered that in my previous life, Lily only began to see Ethan in a new light after he stole my $200 million lottery ticket for her. From that moment, he went from being an unnoticed nobody to the most devoted follower in her eyes. In this life, Ethan and I were both poor, and to Lily, once a wealthy A-list socialite, Ethan was nothing more than a bright but impoverished scholarship student. He wasn't worth her attention. Watching Ethan's pained expression, longing to love someone he had no chance with, I recalled the happiness on his face in my past life when he handed my lottery ticket to Lily. "I like her," he had said. "As long as she's happy, I don't care if I end up in hell." Back then, Ethan and I were neighbors and desk mates, inseparable. Everyone assumed we were a couple, even I thought so. Only the final step of confessing our feelings was missing. But that day, after a heated argument, he looked at me with mockery and sneered. "Emma, how could you think I like you? Being with you is so boring most of the time. I wish you were her." Then he added, "But it's impossible. She's so dazzling and full of life, warm like the sun. You're nothing like her, dull and lifeless." Ethan's words echoed in my mind. I'm willing to do anything. In my previous life he proved it. He stole my lottery winnings, protected a murderer, traded a recommendation for Lily, and entered a prestigious college alongside her. He made himself the hero of his love story while utterly destroying my life. He wasn't a murderer, but he might as well have been. I stared at Ethan coldly. In the last life, he sacrificed me to become a champion of pure love. This time, I would ensure Ethan sacrificed himself to light up his own so-called romance. After Lily's family declared bankruptcy, her life spiraled into financial ruin. Short on cash, her entire appearance became haggard and worn. Ethan noticed every detail, and it tore him apart. Unable to help her, he sank into self-recrimination, even to the point where he couldn't concentrate in class. Every lecture found him either daydreaming or obsessively searching for quick ways to make money on his phone. My situation, however, was entirely different. In my last life, my financial situation was even worse than Lily's. Without the lottery, I not only had to study but also work multiple part-time jobs just to scrape together enough money for basic living expenses. But this time, with my lottery winnings, I was free from financial worries for the first time. I could pour all my energy into studying. Ethan had always been the top-ranked student in our grade, while I was perpetually second. Everyone assumed it was because my intellect wasn't as sharp as his, but I knew the truth. It was the hours lost to my part-time jobs that held me back. If not for that, the top spot would have been mine, and now I was determined to take it back. While Ethan was consumed by his financial worries, an opportunity presented itself. The school announced the reopening of a financial aid program with a generous grant of $100,000. There was only one slot available for our class, and 3 of us were vying for it. Me, Ethan, and Lily. Lily's expression was full of smug confidence when the homeroom teacher announced the news. Ethan immediately turned to her with excitement and said, "Lily, I don't need this. You should take it." Lily's face lit up with a radiant smile, and Ethan, momentarily stunned, looked at her with even more adoration. I glanced up from my pile of practice papers and smirked. I haven't given up yet. Why should it be hers? My gaze carried a trace of disdain as I turned to Ethan. In the past, whenever it came down to choosing between me and him for something like this, I always let him have it. But that was out of choice, not because I couldn't win. Ethan might have good grades, but he was arrogant and self-centered, far less approachable than I was with our classmates. When it came to votes, he couldn't beat me. And Lily, she stood no chance. Before her family's bankruptcy, she carried herself with aloof superiority, refusing to mingle with her peers. Now that she was broke, aside from her sycophantic admirers, few sympathized with her. Unless I withdrew, the grant was mine. Both of them understood this. Lily forced out a few tears, her voice sharp and accusatory. "Emma, my family's bankrupt. Can't you just let me have this? Don't be so selfish." Ah, there it was, Lily's trademark move, playing the victim and weaponizing morality. She'd done the same in my last life. She was the one who had recklessly killed me, yet in court, she painted herself as the victim. "It's all her fault," she had cried. If she hadn't been wandering the streets so late at night, I wouldn't have been startled and lost control of the car. "It's her fault I panicked. She deserved to die." My expression turned icy as I prepared to respond, but before I could, a lazy but clear voice cut through the air. "That's moral blackmail right there. Why should everyone have to accommodate you? We're all struggling." Startled, I turned toward the speaker and found myself surprised to see Ryan Chon, known as the school's heartthrob and the son of a jewelry tycoon. Ryan was famous for his aloofness. It was even rumored that Lily had transferred to this school just to get close to him. But despite sitting next to her for half a year, Ryan had always treated her with indifference. Now, however, he was openly siding with me and embarrassing Lily in front of everyone. Lily's face twisted in a mix of pale shock and furious red. She looked as though she wanted to incinerate me with her glare. Ryan's intervention snapped everyone else out of their silence, and one by one, the classmates around us began murmuring their disdain for Lily. "No way voting for her," someone muttered. "She's ridiculous." Desperate, Lily finally turned her gaze toward Ethan, silently pleading for help. Ethan hesitated, then looked at me with a furrowed brow. "Emma," he said cautiously, "don't you think?" Ethan pulled me aside, his voice low and cautious. "Emma, can I talk to you?" His expression was tense, and I could sense he was trying to stay calm, though his eyes betrayed his nervousness. "Emma," he began, almost pleading, "can you give up the grant spot to Lily? It's really important to me. You'll help me, right?" Not far away, Lily stood motionless, her gaze fixed on Ethan, waiting for the outcome. Both Ethan and I knew exactly what this was. A test from Lily. If Ethan could convince me to step aside, it would elevate his status in Lily's eyes. She might begin to accept him, even rely on him. But if he failed, he'd be seen as useless, unworthy of her attention. Their dynamic would end right here, and Ethan's secret love for Lily would die today. Ethan was terrified of that outcome. His nervousness was obvious. He even swallowed hard as he waited for my response. On the surface, I pretended to be troubled, but inside I was laughing. I hadn't expected that spending a bit of money would give me the chance to see Ethan reduced to such a ridiculous state. It was a delightful surprise. How could I possibly compete with Lily for this grant spot? The funding behind the school's assistance program came from me. Having received financial aid from the school for years, I decided to give back after my lottery win. Moreover, my ultimate goal was to ensure Lily saw Ethan's worth. If Lily didn't realize how useful Ethan could be, she wouldn't latch on to him. But once she did, she'd cling to him like a leech, draining him of everything he had. I planned to destroy Ethan, but not with my own hands. Watching him be ruined by the one he idolized would ensure his suffering lasted a lifetime. Fighting hesitation, I agreed to give up the grant spot. Ethan immediately ran back to Lily, eager to take credit. For the first time, Lily smiled at him. Her eyes curved in delight as she threw herself into his arms. "You're amazing, Ethan," she said, her voice sweet and adoring. Her praise turned Ethan's face bright red. He fidgeted awkwardly, his hands unsure where to go. Returning to my seat, I began to organize my papers when Ryan Shawn, tall and confident, strode over, placing both hands on my desk. He leaned in and said mockingly, "I thought you'd wised up, Emma. But I guess you're still a hopeless romantic." Ignoring him, I simply smiled and continued organizing my notes. After the incident with the lottery and the betrayal, I focused on my work, undeterred. One day Ryan Shawn, the school's heartthrob and son of a jewelry tycoon, approached me. Known for his aloofness, he had always kept his distance, especially from Lily, who had transferred to our school just to get close to him. Yet now he leaned casually against my desk, a playful smirk on his lips. "I thought you'd wised up, Emma," he said, eyes glinting with something more than just amusement. "But I guess you're still a hopeless romantic." I simply smiled and continued organizing my notes, ignoring his jab. I didn't have time for his games. But Ryan didn't leave. Instead, he pulled out a chair and sat beside me. "Why bother with Ethan?" he continued. "He clearly doesn't like you. If you're going to waste your energy, why not direct it toward me? I could use a girlfriend." His tone was teasing, but there was sincerity in his gaze that surprised me. Before I could respond, Ethan returned, his head held high, confidence radiating from him after Lily's praise. Ryan turned to him casually. "Hey Ethan, switch seats with me. You can sit where I was, closer to Lily." Ethan hesitated for a moment, glancing at me. After all, we had been desk mates since the beginning of the school year. But his eyes quickly darted back to Lily, who was watching him expectantly. Pretending to consider my opinion, Ethan asked, "Emma, are you okay with this?" I nodded, masking my amusement. It worked perfectly for me. By sitting next to Lily, Ethan would no longer need my help to prove his worth. She would discover just how much of a tool he could be. After the switch, Lily shot me a glare filled with venomous hatred, but her expression only made me smile. As expected, once Ethan became Lily's desk mate, she wasted no time in exploiting him. She loved snacks and made Ethan run errands to buy her favorite treats daily. Even during class, if she had a craving, Ethan would skip lessons to fetch whatever she wanted. She enjoyed sneaking out and encouraged Ethan to climb over the school walls with her, leading him to internet cafes and shady places under flashing neon lights. There, she would sway her hips to the music and pass him a cigarette, her lips brushing against his as she handed it over. Under Lily's influence, Ethan transformed with alarming speed. The once praised top student of the school became someone everyone avoided. He skipped class, ignored his studies, and began hanging out in all the wrong places. When Ethan reappeared at school after a 2-day absence, his disheveled state shocked everyone. The top 2 buttons of his school uniform were undone, exposing his collarbone, which now bore a fresh tattoo of Lily's name. The homeroom teacher, who had held such high hopes for Ethan, exploded in anger. "Have you lost your mind, Ethan?" she shouted, furious. "Do you even realize what you're doing to yourself?" But Ethan couldn't even muster the energy to look up. Leaning lazily against the doorway, he looked as though he might drift off to sleep at any moment. It wasn't just an act. Ethan was truly falling apart. He was exhausted to the point of wanting to fall asleep right where he stood. Eating, drinking, and having fun all required money, and Lily was already bankrupt. Of course, she had none to maintain her extravagant lifestyle. So Ethan relentlessly took on part-time jobs, earning money to support her expenses. The homeroom teacher, thoroughly disappointed, waved him off and told him to return to his seat. Lily, however, giggled sweetly and praised Ethan. "You looked so cool standing up to the teacher like that," she said. Ethan, despite his fatigue, managed a smile filled with satisfaction at her compliment. Then the homeroom teacher announced the results of the national physics competition. I had won the gold medal. The classroom erupted into cheers. It was well known that the physics competition was notoriously difficult, but its prestige was unparalleled. Winning gold meant that top universities would offer early admissions, essentially granting a free pass to the best schools. The homeroom teacher looked at me with pride and said warmly, "You can start thinking about which university you want to attend with your results. Tsinghua and Peking University are both within reach." The class filled with congratulatory voices again, their excitement overflowing. The noise even woke Ethan from his stupor. Irritated, he rubbed his ears and scoffed. "It's just early admission. What's the big deal? I can get into Tsinghua or Peking University with my college entrance exam results. No problem." The classroom quieted slightly. No one doubted Ethan's abilities. He had always been the top student, and even though he had been slipping recently, his strong academic foundation over the past 3 years meant he was still a force to be reckoned with. After making his declaration, Ethan turned to Lily, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "Lily, which university do you like? I'll choose the same one as you." Lily beamed, her eyes narrowing in delight. I smirked, but my eyes carried no warmth. "Any university you want, huh?" Thought to myself. "No, Ethan. By the end of this, you'll have nowhere to go." After class, Ryan suddenly suggested celebrating my early admission with dinner. His offer caught me off guard, and I laughed teasingly. "Why would you treat me to dinner for my success?" Ryan glanced at me and answered casually, "Because I'm happy for you. Who wouldn't want to see the person they like succeed?" His words were straightforward, but his gaze lingered, carrying an air of sincerity. Before I could reply, he leaned in conspiratorially. Wear something nice tonight. You might be in for a surprise. I smiled and nodded. Ryan, ever bold, reached out and ruffled my hair affectionately before walking away. As he disappeared from view, the smile on my face froze, and my fingers clenched into fists. No one knew the truth about Ryan. Beneath his charming facade, he was a twisted monster. He enjoyed inflicting pain, on animals, on women, on anything he could control. In my past life, on the night Lily hit me with her car, I had been trying to escape from the personal hell Ryan had created for me. It was the third night of my captivity. I had witnessed him torturing over a dozen cats to death, their anguished cries etched into my mind. Ryan had lifted my chin with his fingers, his smile chillingly carefree. "You're the first girl I've ever truly taken an interest in," he had said. "Too bad you're always hanging around Ethan. It made it harder to get close to you." The long wait seemed to have heightened his sadistic tendencies, and when he finally had me, his cruelty knew no bounds. He thrived on my fear, loved seeing me teeter on the edge of consciousness, and relished every whimper of pain. It didn't matter if it was on the bed or off. His satisfaction came from my suffering. The memories surged, dark and suffocating, threatening to pull me under. My thoughts were interrupted by Lily's sharp voice cutting through the air behind me. "How did you seduce him? You act like such a studious girl, but who knows what tricks you're hiding to lure men in." I turned around to face her and found her face twisted with jealousy and bitterness. My plan to destroy Ryan hinged on Lily. I needed her insecurities and ambition to work in my favor. For now, I put on a smug expression, leaning in just enough to make her uncomfortable. "He just likes me better," I said lightly, deliberately goading her. Lily's eyes widened in disbelief as she stared at me. "He really prefers this sort of thing," I added nonchalantly, spreading my hands as if to say, "Isn't it obvious? Why else would he like me and not you?" My words struck a nerve. Lily, with all her pride and vanity, could never accept that someone might find her inferior to me. Her expression twisted further as she tried to process my jab. I added with a sweet smile, "Oh, and he mentioned that he plans to propose to me tonight. By tomorrow, I'll be a wealthy woman, married into a prominent family." Returning to the life of wealth and privilege was Lily's ultimate dream, and the jealousy in her eyes as she looked at me only deepened. I pretended to sigh in frustration. "It's too soon," I murmured. "But he said his family is very traditional. If a man gets physically involved with a woman, he must marry her. Since he's planning to spend tonight with me, marriage is a certainty." Out of the corner of my eye, I saw Lily's gaze flicker with calculation. A second later, she began probing about the details of my supposed date with Ryan, slyly trying to gather enough information to take my place. Her intentions couldn't have been more obvious. Inside, I was laughing uncontrollably. How predictable. She had fallen right into my trap. Coming up with the ridiculous idea of impersonating me, she figured ignorance was my weakness. Playing along, I gave her every detail about the planned date. When she later slipped me 2 sleeping pills under the guise of concern, I even pretended not to notice. As I slept, Lily applied heavy makeup to her face, donned a mask, and changed into my clothes. With a smug smile, she walked out the door, pausing just long enough to glance back at me with a sneer. "You idiot," she muttered. "You deserve to have this life stolen from you. Once everything's done and dusted, who's going to know I'm not you? He won't even have the chance to back out." After Lily left, I opened my eyes and calmly dialed a top entertainment journalist. "I have a story for you," I said, my voice steady. "The son of a jewelry tycoon, Ryan, is a violent sadist. Tonight, he'll reveal his true nature." The journalist's excitement was palpable through the phone. "What's your condition?" they asked eagerly. "This is explosive news," I replied, my voice chillingly calm as images of Ryan's past cruelty flashed through my mind. Those helpless cats he tortured to death and his smug declaration. Torturing animals is unethical, not illegal. No one can stop me. Make it as big as possible, I said. I want him to be ruined forever. You can count on me, the journalist promised. True to their reputation, the story broke that very night. News of Ryan's abusive tendencies spread like wildfire. The night of Ryan's surprise arrived, and I waited calmly in my dorm, knowing exactly what was about to unfold. By the time the journalist's exposé went live, Lily was already in the back seat of a luxury car, wearing my clothes and that ridiculous mask, pretending to be me. She had no idea that the world was about to turn against Ryan, and by extension her. She thought she was stepping into a fairy tale. Instead, she was walking into a trap set by the very man she hoped to manipulate. The moment Ryan saw her, he knew something was off. But he didn't care. He had waited too long, wanted too badly to possess someone like me, or at least the illusion of me. He took her to his penthouse, where the walls were lined with trophies of his cruelty. Photos of dead animals, shattered glass from the windows of girls who tried to run, and the faint scent of blood lingering in the air. That's when the police arrived. The journalist had done her job well. With evidence from hidden cameras, audio recordings, and testimonies from other victims, they had more than enough to arrest Ryan on multiple charges: assault, animal cruelty, illegal surveillance, and attempted abduction. The footage was leaked online just minutes before the raid. And by the time the world woke up the next morning, Ryan Sean was no longer the golden boy of the elite. He was a monster exposed. And Lily. She was caught red-handed, dressed as me, in Ryan's apartment, with no way to explain her presence without revealing her own desperation and deceit. The school turned on her. Her so-called admirers vanished overnight. The headlines painted her as either a victim or a gold digger. But the truth was somewhere in between, and everyone knew it. Ethan, meanwhile, had nothing left. With Lily disgraced and Ryan gone, the girl he had destroyed his life for no longer held any power. Worse, she blamed him. For everything. For her fall from grace, for her broken reputation, for the fact that she would never escape the shadow of that night. He tried to apologize. She spat in his face. And just like that, the boy who once gave away my $200 million for a girl who never loved him, ended up with nothing. No money. No future. No Lily. I watched it all unfold from a distance, untouched and untouchable. After paying $40 million in taxes, I was left with $160 million. With my $160 million, I transferred to a school overseas, where no one knew my name or my past. I aced my exams, got into the university of my dreams, and built a life that was mine, not shaped by betrayal or revenge. But sometimes late at night, I'd look back on it all and wonder if I had become the very thing I hated. Because I didn't just destroy them. I made them destroy themselves. And that, in the end, was the sweetest revenge of all.